Some of you might say, I'm just trying to ride a trend with this video. And to that I would say, yes I am. Here is 5 anime like Among Us. Let's begin. Now that I actually have your attention, number 1, the beheading cycle. Some unfortunate circumstances have caused Ira Akagami to be exiled from her family and forced to live on an isolated island. To help pass the time, Akagami has invited numerous people to her mansion, each being an unrivaled genius in their respective fields. Everyone seems to be getting along for the most part, that is until one of the guests winds up being murdered. This anime follows Boku, a young boy who is a mere assistant to one of the geniuses, as he begins investigating and tracking down who is the murderer among them. Have you been paying attention to these clips? Because this anime looks unbelievably gorgeous, and you might have even noticed that it gives off some Monogatari vibes. This is due to the fact that the beheading cycle is made by the exact same people that animated and produced the Monogatari series. And if you don't know, they basically specialize in making what would be dull conversation scenes look and feel absolutely exhilarating. This is due to the art being completely stunning to look at, alongside the unique way that each scene is directed and constantly changing. The downside is that this anime only has 8 episodes, but trust me, you're gonna want to give the beheading cycle a try. Always remember that in anime, pink is always sus. Number 2, Talentless Nana. In this world, there are very rare cases where humans are born with supernatural powers, also known as talents. And because this is anime, all of these students are brought to a single high school. At this school, they are taught that each of them are special and must be ready at all times to defend this planet from the enemy of humanity. This anime follows Nakajima, a timid boy who chooses to hide his power from the rest of the class. Our story begins as a new transfer student enters the school, and she has the ability to read other people's minds. Nakajima quickly befriends the new girl, and they begin spending some time together outside of school. Okay, I'm about to spoil episode 1's big twist, so skip ahead now if you don't want to hear it. So, you remember how I mentioned that pink is always sus? Well, it turns out that our new girl, Nana, is completely talentless, and is actually an undercover agent who has been sent to this school to wipe out the enemy of humanity. But who is the enemy of humanity, you ask? Well, according to the government, it's the entire class of superpowered students. So yeah, Talentless Nana is literally an anime that follows the imposter. Now look, this anime is still currently airing, so I don't know how it will turn out, but you should definitely give it a try. I mean, we all know playing as the imposter is the best part anyway. This anime is a little slow on the uptake, but does have an interesting story. Number 3, The Perfect Insider. Suhei is a professor at National University who dreams of getting to know the world-famous programmer Dr. Magata. The problem is that Dr. Magata has lived in total isolation ever since she murdered her own parents and was deemed mentally unstable. Due to this, it is nearly impossible to get an interview with Dr. Magata, but one of Suhei's students named Mo was able to use her father's connection to set up an interview. The interview went well, and Mo uses this experience as a way to make Suhei jealous, which causes him to select Dr. Magata's research facility as the location for the class's seminar trip. During the trip, Mo and Suhei attempt to visit the doctor, but while they are inside the facility, the master computer begins glitching out, causing the lights to flicker and the door to Dr. Magata's isolated chamber to open. What awaits them on the other side of the door is not the eccentric, murderous genius they were expecting, but a mutilated corpse that has been stuffed into a wedding gown. Now, due to the computer glitch, they are unable to call the police, and this is a major problem since the murderer is still inside the facility. As I previously stated, this anime starts off slow, as it takes about 3 episodes for the closed room murder mystery to really kick in. I'm not sure if I'm going to finish The Perfect Insider, because I might have accidentally, not so accidentally, looked up the ending, and let me tell you, the solution to this murder mystery is pretty wild. I've seriously been thinking about reading this next series. Number 4, Rokka, Braves of the Six Flowers. Every 300 years, the all-powerful Demon Lord awakens to cause chaos and destruction across the land. In response to this, the Goddess of Fate hand-selects the strongest warriors to become the heroes that will save the world. Adlai Meyer is the world's strongest man, according to himself, and he winds up being thrown in jail for disrupting a sanctioned tournament. Adlai is sentenced to life in prison, which is where he receives the blessing of the Goddess of Fate, marking him as one of the legendary heroes. Shortly after this, Princess Nascentinia, who is also marked as a hero, busts him out of prison, and together they make their way to a small temple where they will meet up with the other heroes. However, after arriving to the designated temple, an impenetrable fog barrier appears, preventing them from escaping, and this is when they realize that a total of 7 people have been summoned as heroes. But the issue is that according to legend, the Goddess of Fate only chooses 6 heroes. Now the question is, who's the imposter? And will Adlai be able to survive long enough to prove his own innocence? Rokka, Braves of the Six Flowers, is definitely a more controversial anime when it comes to whether it's considered good or bad. Personally, I loved it and would love to get a second season, but I don't have much hope for that. Anyone who has been around the channel for a while now should have saw this one coming. Number 5, Astra, Lost in Space. In the near future, an assortment of high school students are preparing to depart on their school camping trip to planet Macpa. This camping trip is meant to be a test of leadership and teamwork, and because of this, the students will be left entirely alone to fend for themselves. Shortly after arriving to the planet, the students run into a minor issue, which causes them to be warped away from the planet and spat out into the dark void of space. Now because this is anime, they are lucky enough to find themselves next to an old but abandoned spaceship, which they may be able to use to make their way back home. The problem is that they are 5,000 light years away from home, and they only have enough food and water for a few days. The students must learn to get along and work together if they want to survive this long trek back home. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that there is also an unknown traitor among them. Some might even refer to them as an imposter, and they seem to be trying to kill everyone on board, including his or herself. If you're new here and don't know my thoughts on this anime, let's just say it's among my top 10 favorites. Astra Lost in Space has an intriguing plot, interesting characters, not 1 but 2 unexpected twists, plus a satisfying ending, all wrapped up into a short 12-episode anime. So yeah, the real question is, why the heck are you still here when you could be watching Astra Lost in Space? Before you go, take a guess at what waifu you think this is. By the way, did you guys notice the new channel art? It was made by Julius Design. He does some great work, so be sure to check out his Instagram at julius.design. Lastly, big shout out to my lone patron, and thanks for watching everyone. I hope to see you next time.